Yeah. Oh, hot mic test. Test. Yeah. All right, let's do it. Hey, welcome to the Automation Guild, where we all get together to help each other with test automation. And today is going to be a preview of 5 sessions that I've received so far for the Automation Guild. If you're not aware of the Automation Guild, it's an online conference and community dedicated 100% to test automation. You want to check it out. Registration is now open. It's going to occur the week of January 8th to the 10th. 3 days of automation awesomeness. Head on over to automationguild.com and register today. And today we're going to get a sneak peek on 5 of those sessions of automation awesomeness that you can get right now when you register. Watch the full session for these 5 ones that I'll be showing. Before we get into it, as always, I'm going to go over some topics in the news, my book recommendations of the week, and my tweet of the week. So for those that don't know, I'm Joe from joecolantonio.com, testtalks.com, and Guild Conferences, a blog, podcast, and online conference platform dedicated to helping you succeed with creating automation awesomeness. So think of me as your Obi-Wan Kenobi, guiding you and training you to be the hero of all your test automation efforts. So it's all about you, not me, and hopefully we can all get together and come up with some automation awesomeness to help each other out. So I'm going to just double check the comments here on YouTube, see who's on board, before we jump into the meat of the topic today. I see 6 people viewing, so that's awesome. No comments yet. So if you do have a comment, you want to talk about something, you have a suggestion, just leave it in the comment below. And hey, if you like this show, if you want to get alerted every time I go live, make sure to subscribe or give a big thumbs up at the end of this. So that'll help me know whether or not I did a good job today, giving you the content I think is going to help you through your week. All right, so let's get into the segment I'm calling News Around the Web. All right, so here are the news around the web I found for Automation Guild for the week of November 30th. So the first one, I keep talking about new tools that I keep coming across. Here's a new one I found. I never heard of it. Don't know if anyone else has heard of it. If you have, leave a comment, let me know. But pCloud. So another AI-based powered app testing tool by Certifia. Once again, never heard of either this tool or this company. But it's a new tool that's supposed to help you with AI-based technology to test your real devices. Also has some sort of performance capturing mechanism in it. Haven't seen it yet, but it's brand new from what I can tell. Just wanted to get it out there. Once again, another tool promoting AI-based automation. I think we're on a cusp of something that's going to start really trending up and up with AI. Also, another new tool I came across called Headspin. And what's different about Headspin is they're catering to testing, but what's different is they're catering to developers. So if you're a developer, maybe a lot of times developers don't have the full toolkit or they're not involved in the testing process, but more and more they are with the unit test and CI getting fast feedback while they're coding. And with Headspin, it sounds like, well, not Headspin, Headspin, it sounds like this is the type of tool that was developed specifically for developers to help them with that. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. For all these new tools or these news items, I have a bit.ly link down below. Just click on that. And I'll upload this later to the automationguild.com/show. I haven't uploaded in a while, but I need to get on top of it. Once I do, all those show notes will be there also. Tricentis. Here's a company that's been in the news a while also. This is a company that bills itself as a no-code needed type solution. I've spoken with them before in the past on Test Talks. And basically, they have a solution now where Tosca is if you haven't used it before, it is codeless based. I don't know if you can hear my wife, but she is talking on the phone. But anyway, they came out with the new release, and the new release, which is kind of cool, if you're using Tosca, I don't use Tosca, it allows you to now run their solution within a cloud-based service like Source Labs or Browser Stack. So really interesting there. I'm not sure why more companies aren't doing this, because I think a lot of vendors should start integrating with open source technologies, and together they can really make an awesome solution together. So another solution that I came across is a Kickstarter thing for Rediff. It's by Retest. So I featured Retest a few weeks ago on my post on the top AI-based automation solutions. And Retest has a Kickstarter program now with a tool called Rediff. And what's really cool, a lot of times I get asked from people, hey, Joe, I have these PDFs that I need to compare. How do I compare them? What's the best way to compare it? And it's really hard to do that type of comparison. Or you have some documents. You have like a golden copy of maybe some documents that are being generated, and you need to compare it against a known good state. So how do you do that? It's really difficult to actually do that now. And it's something that I've struggled with before. When I worked for an insurance company, we'd have these large policies that we'd have to compare against another policy, and especially for compliance, it needed to meet all these different regulations. And so with a tool like this, it could help you do what they're saying is golden master testing with semantically comparing files or documents and ignoring violation changes and grouping similar ones together. So it's really cool. It's a Kickstarter effort. Once again, you can click on that link in that bit.ly and check them out. You can support them. I'll probably support them because I think this is a worthy initiative. And I failed to mention it is going to be an open source solution. So you're not paying a vendor to do this for you. It's actually open source. So you can promote them or support them monetarily and start using their tool and check them out. So I thought that was really cool. I like seeing Kickstarter programs using testers or test technologies. All right, so tweet of the week. I don't know why this isn't big enough. Let me see if I can make it bigger here. So this is from TJ Meyer. I need to get these names right. TJ is actually going to be one of the speakers at the 2018 Automation Guild Conference. And what's really interesting about his session is something I've been hearing more and more of. And because I am, as you can tell, I am a little bit older, right? I haven't been on a job interview in, 4 years. And the last job interview I was on, I actually didn't get. Before that, every interview I ever went on from 2000 to 2014, I got the position. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, just because I knew Load Runner, I knew Quick Test Professional, I knew WinRunner. But in 2014 or 2013, I went on an interview with PayPal, and I started to get asked all these questions around Java and Java development. And I just couldn't wrap my head around why they were asking me this question. Well, the reason why I bring this up is TJ actually noticed the same exact things himself when he started going around to different companies, when he was interviewing for different positions. He noticed there was actually a shift between what type of interview questions he was getting asked before and what he's getting asked now. So if you haven't been on an interview in a while, I think this is going to be a great session to get you up to speed to know the types of things you need to be ready for when you're interviewing. So his session is called How to Pass a Automation Developer Based Interview. So really cool stuff. So let's check it out.
Hello, I'm TJ Mahar. Although I've been a senior QA engineer here in Boston for the past 20 years, I've only been an automation developer since 2015, back when I started writing automation frameworks for Fitbit's shopping cart. Back then, the interview process, although difficult, it seemed easier. During the interview, there wasn't any actual coding. I was able to talk about experimental automation frameworks that I had written as part of an online class, and I was able to point to the code in my online code repository on github.com. After Fitbit, though, when searching for positions, I realized that the screening process had changed a bit. I was introduced to the dreaded whiteboard coding interview. Let me tell you, between you and me, it's very, very stressful. Let's simulate that stress for you in a coding interview, shall we? Take out some paper and a pencil. Open up your favorite browser and Google the keyword stopwatch. When the stopwatch Google app pops up, press the start button. Now, please answer the following coding challenge.
All right, so that was TJ's session. Like I said, I think it's an interesting topic. It's something I think more and more of us are going to be seeing in the future. If you're not seeing it now, you probably are. Even when I interview people, we have a developer on the call that asks them all the same Java questions I used to stumble over. Luckily, I got the hint in 2014, and I started changing up my tech stack and really honing down on automation using developing tools and languages, so Python and Java. I think it's really important to know those types of things. So when you still start interviewing at other companies, if you're hit with this type of interview, you're prepared for it. If you're not, you definitely want to check out TJ's session. Really cool stuff on how to get ready for that type of interview. So the next one is by Toya Mamaji, automatically covering the automation pyramid and agile quadrants. And what I like about this particular session was he goes over how he tackled an actual testing scenario that he had to test, right? And he used all the different quadrants to walk him through where he needs to focus his efforts on, where and when. So really interesting. He also does a comparison between what he thinks is why the quadrant is better than the test pyramid. When you're trying to think of test automation and testing, what areas you need to focus on. Really awesome session. Let's check it out.
Hi guys, I'm Toyo Mamuchi. I'm Senior Automation Test Analyst at a company called Allen Gray. Allen Gray is an investment company based in Cape Town, South Africa. It's been around since the 1970s. My experience, I basically had experience in the automation field from across different industries, from the banking industry to telecoms to legal software development, amongst a whole host of others. My current project I'm working on is basically we're looking to replace a CRM BPM system with a newer system called Appian. On this project, I've basically looked to bake in automation from the get-go, covering the different levels. That's why I looked at covering my automation from an automation pyramid perspective and from the agile quadrants perspective, and you'll see that in my presentation. I hope you guys find it insightful. Whether you guys are starting a project from fresh, or whether you're currently working on a project and you're looking to bring in automation at the different levels. Let's hope you guys enjoy it.
Awesome. So, like I said, another important topic I think we need to be aware of, not only the test pyramid, but also the different areas of the testing quadrant, just so when you're planning your test suite, a new sprint, just realize where you are within the testing life cycle, what you need to focus on, where you actually may have gaps on. Another one that's a very popular topic is REST-based testing, especially if you're using Java or using Selenium. How can you combine Selenium with REST-based testing? So we have Mark Winteringham. He's pretty well known in the UK. I think he's done a lot of sessions for Ministry of Testing, and he has an awesome session on REST API using WebDriver and I think it's Rest Assured and Perfect Harmony. So let's check out his session.
Hi everyone, and welcome to REST APIs and WebDriver in Perfect Harmony. My name is Mark Winteringham, and I'm primarily going to be talking about how we can use HTTP requests and REST APIs in conjunction with WebDriver to create robust checks. However, what's underlying all of this is something that we need to think about in terms of how we design our checks and think about the problems that we're trying to solve and use the right tools for those solutions. Because tools bias us in how we solve a problem, and that could be an issue. When we design an automated check, we want to ensure that it's targeted, reliable, informative, maintainable, and speedy. If we dive into tools too quickly without thinking about the problem that we're trying to solve in the first place, it means that we can design a check that potentially will work, but becomes more problematic in terms of maintainability or in terms of speed. So what we want to do is we want to be designing checks that are as effective as possible. So I want to demonstrate how we can take this sort of mindset to a pre-existing check and identify some incorrect uses of WebDriver and where HTTP and APIs could actually replace those areas without damaging that sort of original value of that check. I'm going to be sharing some slides, showing some examples and some live coding. And I've also got a link to some source code that you can actually pull down and go through the commits and see the changes that I'm making within the talk for yourself. So let's get started.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Like I said, this is a really important topic. Get asked this question all the time. How do I test REST services if I have Selenium? Because it's just a library, if you're using a Java, you can just pull in a library like REST Assured, and you create a test flow with your web and your REST test together. Mark has a great example how he uses APIs to do the test data setup for his test. So he can do a test data setup, then he runs his web-based tests, and he does a cleanup using REST APIs because they're quicker and faster. They don't have to deal with the UI. It's just a much smoother solution. Yeah, really cool. So you definitely want to check out his session. So if you're here, live here on YouTube, just start leaving a chat. Let me know if you have any questions so far on any of these topics we covered so far. The next one up that we're going to be going over as a quick preview is Paul Grossman. So Paul is really well known in the QTP UFT industry. You know, he's well known. He has a blog. He has a Facebook page that has a lot of traffic that focuses on automation. And he has a cool session on dark arts of functional testing using UFT 14.0. He actually walks through how to create a framework from scratch using UFT. So let's check that out.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Grossman, the Dark Arts Wizard, and today I'm going to be showing you some cool stuff that you can do using HP Microfocus Unified Functional Testing 14.01. I'm going to show you some tricks to make things reliable, reusable, and easy. I like easy. We'll talk a little bit about building our first automation framework using a couple of different functions. We're going to show you how to override methods. We're going to show you how to find objects without using the object repository, even update the reporter so that you get really nice looking results out of the whole thing. We'll talk a little bit about data as well. A little bit about me. Well, I've been doing test automation for about 17 years. I'm a little bit of a goof. You may have heard my presentations with Joe Colantonio on Test Talks. I like to do funny voices occasionally. So just to kind of liven it up, because, you know, test automation, sometimes it bores people. So if I can't do magic tricks, I got to do funny voices to keep guys all entertained. You know what? I bet you're thinking right now, hey, Paulie, what websites are we going to be running against? I could say Google. Well, everybody does Google. You know, it's kind of boring. Maybe you want to do Mercury Tours. Well, that's okay, but everybody does Mercury Tours, and it's not exactly a real website. It doesn't really represent what the websites look like today. So I'm going to go with something kind of in the middle. It's called CandyMapper.com. CandyMapper.com, I was mentioning that if you happen to listen to Joe Colantonio's Halloween episode at testtalks.com, I was kind of talking about it kind of as if it was a fictional site, but it's really not. Well, in some sense it is. You see, this is a website that was built on GoDaddy's website builder. And I go and add a little bit more bits to it. I make it have a little fun thing to it. There is an area where you can give your name, your email, and a message. It's really not worth the time to put stuff into it because I'm not collecting anything. I'm not trying to sell you anything. It's just a test website to see if the framework that we're using can actually identify buttons and also find fields and do all sorts of other things. Maybe even find images if you need to. Couple of things before we get started. I want to make sure you understand. First rule is this is your framework, okay? Anyone who tells you that the framework is going to be used by some other unnamed person who's going to be building test cases and executing them and then looking at the results, it's probably never going to happen. 99% of the time, it's always been me. So I've learned my lesson. I design my frameworks to benefit me. Second of all, my frameworks, they tend to track metrics, and metrics are your best friend. A good metric is to know, well, after I click the button, how long is it going to take for this website to take me where it's supposed to go? That's a good thing to know. And that's actually a little bit similar to performance testing, right? But I'm a functional test automation engineer. Well, it's good to be a little bit of both on those sides. Hey, and lastly, don't document your code. I know, sounds like a dumb idea, right? No, code your documentation. Make sure that you write down what it is you expect your functions to do and how they'll be designed, and then code it expect. In that case, you'll always know that you've got your documentation right there inside your code, and you can stay right on top of your framework. All right, I've given you a little bit of tease. Let's get started and check out the secrets of test automation at the Automation Guild. I'm Paul Grossman. Let's get started.
Awesome. So you can see Paul is really funny. He actually does a lot of impersonations of people, and I think he does magic tricks. He's a really good guy. So you definitely want to check out that session. He goes in depth on how to create a framework from scratch using UFT and all the best practices he's learned. He's been using UFT, I think, for almost as long as I have, since at least 2000. Well, UFT wasn't around then, but it was WinRunner QTP when it first came out. He's been using it ever since QTP first came out. So a really cool session. A lot of people were asking for that from the last guild. They wanted to hear more about UFT. So that's why we have Paul joining us this year, or in 2018, in the Automation Guild. So another one is by Karina Pip on automation, what I'm calling awesome automation with Apache Common Helper libraries. So, one of my pet peeves is when people create code from scratch without looking out, is there a library out there that already can help me? It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts that someone would waste time, and most likely it's a coder that isn't as good as a coder that already created a package already, where they're wasting time creating their own implementation of something that already is available to you. So that's what I love about Karina's session, and she shows some libraries she uses all the time that saves her a lot of time and really helps her automation efforts. And she didn't have to write anything. All she needed to do was import that library and make use of those methods and functions right away without having to create code herself. So that's why I really enjoyed this session and think it's a really important topic. Regardless of what language you're using, you really should be looking to see if something exists already and consume that within your framework before you actually create something from scratch. Just a quick tip that's going to save you a lot of time and headaches.
Hi everyone, and welcome to my talk for Automation Guild 2018. My name is Corina, or you might know me from Twitter, where I am a little tester. You might also know me from my blog, which is I am a little tester on WordPress.com, or from my
Paul
GitHub
Grossman's
project,
in the house.
which
Paul.
is I am a little tester. In my talk today, I want to show you some of the things that I use in my day-to-day work to help me with not needing to write code that is already written by someone, just because I need that code to help me process some of the test data that I'm using. I'm going to talk to you about the Apache Common project, which is basically a grouping of a ton of helper classes and methods that you can use in your test project. It's a Java-based library, I have to say that from the beginning. So they actually have several components inside of the large project, and each of these components can help you with working with different things. For example, if you want to do math-related activities, you can look into the math component. If you need to do some logging activities, you can look into the logging component. But in my talk today, I will focus on two of the components that they implement under the Apache Common project. And these two components are the lang component and the IO component. I will go over some of the classes that I most frequently use in order to process some of the data that I need for my tests. For example, I need to do a lot of string processing, but also date time processing. So the classes that I'm going to talk about today are here. They are string utils, random string utils. As you guessed, string utils are used for working with strings. Random string utils will help you generate random strings in several ways. Then I'm going to talk about the files utils class, where you can work with files and folders. I will then go over two classes that are date related, namely date utils and date format utils, and an interesting class that is called system utils that, in my use case at least, can help you with working with your OS and maybe with your Java version. All of the details that you need about the Apache Commons project can be found on their own site, which is here below. Don't hesitate to take a look into this project. It is, as I said, very helpful because they tried to create as many lines of code that they could in order to help other people not have to rewrite those lines of code. So whenever you are doing some kind of processing, like you need to parse some strings, or for example, you need to generate random strings, the code that you would normally have to write yourself can already be found inside of this project. So you just need to know what you're looking for, and you need to take a look at the library, and surely you will find something that can help you in your testing activities. But let's jump into the talk, and you will see more details about this very large and comprehensive library called the Apache Commons.
All right, so that was Corinna. Really cool session, like I said. A lot of principles that she goes over, the same ones that I covered in other sessions. How it's really important that you leverage what already exists before spending time on creating your own code. Any code you write, the more code you write, the more code you need to maintain. The more code you need to maintain, the more time it's going to take you to really stay on top of your automation efforts. I believe Paul would agree with me. Paul does an awesome session where he makes use of a lot of function library he creates that he reuses, so he's not creating the same logic over and over and over again. So really cool stuff. So Victor just asked in the comments what framework I would recommend, or what's my favorite. It's a tough question because what I like and what works for me probably may not be right for you or your company. I really like Serenity. And the reason why I like Serenity, it acts like a wrapper on top of Selenium, Rest Assured, and Cucumber. So if you're doing anything with behavior-driven development and you want to automate APIs and web-based applications, what's really great about Serenity, it comes with all this pre-baked functionality. This is just like having, this is why this actually goes in perfectly with what I've been saying, is you don't want to create anything from scratch. So a lot of times people start a Selenium framework that they create from scratch. When you have things like Serenity, you could just pull down, use Maven, and it will create an instance for you of a shell of a framework that has all the functionality in there for you already to get started using Selenium without you writing any code. So there's a lot of boilerplate code you need to write with JBehave or Cucumber, but if you use Serenity, it makes things really simple. You can pass variables back and forth between different features, where if you had to code that yourself, it would take lots and lots of time. So it comes with a lot of things out of the box. Also, it has some cool weight mechanisms built in for different things, where, like I said, it's like an existing function library of all this cool awesomeness of things I can utilize to get up to speed really quickly. And what's even awesome, it has these awesome reports. When you're done running your test, depending on how you set your test up in your project, it could break it down by your team. You can break it down by function. You can use it every sprint, end of sprint, to see how many automated versus manual tests we have. What's our say-do ratio? Say the team said we're going to have so many points. Well, it has this awesome chart every time you run your test that's created of all this data in a really cool report that's easy to read, that can be consumed by anyone on the team. So I don't work for Serenity. It's open source, actually, so you should definitely check that out if you haven't already, but I definitely would recommend it. They also have a JavaScript version, Serenity JS, which is really closely tied to Serenity. So the same features there you can use in JavaScript. John Smart wrote an excellent book called BDD in Action. And he goes over a lot of BDD best practices, and he really knows his stuff. So what he did is, because he knows all this stuff, he really baked it into Serenity. So definitely check that out. It's Serenity, I wasn't planning for this question, so I don't know off the top of my head what the URL is, but I'll try to find it and leave it in the chat after this. Awesome. So I know Paul's been using LeanFT lately. I like LeanFT, but I honestly don't see anyone using it. And I couldn't imagine getting my developers to use it just because there's like an agent you'd have to have on all your machines and there's a license. But it's really cool if you're using a vendor-based solution like QTP, UFT. They have a floating license where you could use LeanFT, so you could also check that out. I think that's a cool framework. I think Paul's been digging that too. And Paul probably could check him out on his Facebook automation page, and I'm sure he's been talking about that for a while, or he'll be talking about it from a few weeks to come. But definitely another cool framework you could check out. And I also have a blog post on the top 7 or 12 frameworks you should check out. I'll leave it in the show notes. Like I said, I haven't been up to date with the show notes, but when I do, you can just go to automationguild.com/show, and that should direct you to this page where I'll upload the videos and have the show notes. All right, so this is my book of the week. Right there. Just got it. It's Dawn of the New Everything. And it's by Jaron Lanier. He wrote an awesome book called You Are Not a Gadget. He's like one of the founders of virtual reality. And what I really love about this book, it starts off when he talks about a bug. So he created one of the first virtual reality, this was like in the 80s, believe it or not, the headsets. And when you put on the headset and he looked down, his hand was as huge as, I forgot how he said it, but it was a bug. His hand should not have been as large as it was. But what was really interesting about this is how a bug could be beautiful. Even though it was a bug, it gave him a perspective that he normally wouldn't have. And it gets kind of philosophical, but it's kind of like a memoir kind of tech. He breaks chapters out into different things. And really, it's a good overview of what he saw as VR being the godfather of VR, where he sees it going in the future. And like I said, like the very first paragraph, I think he's talking about a bug. So if you're a tester, I think this is a book you will dig. And he's a really cool dude. I enjoyed all his other books, and I started reading this. I'm on to chapter 3, and I already know that this is definitely a book that I would recommend. So I have a link down here that you can click on to get this book if you haven't already. Good stuff. All right, so actually that's all I have and we're out of time. That's all we have for the Automation Guild show today. Thank you everyone for all your comments and for all your automation awesomeness. And like I said, this show is sponsored by the Automation Guild, an online conference community dedicated 100% to helping you succeed with creating automation awesomeness. We have 20 of the top test automation engineers in the world sharing with you a tip, tool, technique, or best practice that's hopefully going to accelerate your new or existing test automation efforts in 2018. And like I said, Paul Grossman will be there. He's on the chat now. A lot of great, awesome stuff. A lot of people that I really admire. We have Manoj. Manoj contributes to Serenity, contributes to Selenium, contributes to NG. I forget the name. He contributes to a bunch of different projects. He's going to be with us. We're going to have Lisa Crispin, a ton of people. Richard Bradshaw from Ministry of Testing, Karina Pip, Michelle. Just a lot of awesome people. So you definitely want to check that out. And registration is open now, so head on over to automationguild.com and register today. And if you register today, you actually get access to the 5 previews I just showed. Their full session is uploaded to the site, and they'll be live with us to take live Q&A during the week of the conference. So you get to ask them questions about their session. So if you want to get a head start on that, definitely check it out. So that's it for this episode of the Automation Guild show. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.